We're extremely excited to be in position to compete and play in very meaningful games in February. And it seems like we're continuing to improve. Our connectivity and chemistry is also improving, so that's a good sign. But overall, we have a lot of work to do. We've got a very, very tough stretch coming up, and Northwestern is a team that is very, very capable. They are young, they are inexperienced, but they're well coached. They obviously have the most potent returning scorer in the Big Ten, and Martinelli, who's got such a unique game, and then freshman guards playing really well. A transfer guard that we competed against the last few years at FAU. So we have a lot of respect for Northwestern and know it's going to be an extremely difficult game on Wednesday.
What do you see from them on film, Chris Collins' team, when you're preparing for them offensively?
Physicality, role definition. Actually, the thing that jumps out is screening. They're elite screeners. They really don't beat themselves. Just all the things as a coach, rarely do they have an older group that's been together, and when they do, they're really, really good. As we saw in the NCAA tournament a couple years ago, they had an old group that had grown together, and this looks like they have some foundational pieces that they're going to be able to do it again. But the screening jumps out, the physicality and the screening, and then the confidence that some of the young guys are playing with.
You said a few weeks ago, the practices weren't where you wanted them to be. When did you see that start coming back? And it seems to have translated a little bit in terms of.
It's a blur now, but the last couple weeks we've had very intentional practices. Our film sessions we still lift a lot, and I attribute the sports science department, Matt, and those guys, Chris, and us having a full complement of players this time of year pretty regularly as far as rotation guys and whatnot. So there hasn't been any complaining about lifting weights. There hasn't been any complaining about the film sessions. It's just been what do we need to do to find an advantage and stay healthy and prepare to chase what we're trying to chase.
I know it's part of your job. Do you guys have a sports psychologist for when things aren't going well, either on the court or off the court?
Michigan provides some things in that field. Now a few of these guys have people that they've worked with before they got here. One or two of our guys last year had people that they worked with and they took calls and Zooms with. But no, we help them and we tell them we can help find someone that fits who they are and what they need. But no, we don't necessarily have that for our team.
I got two quick officiating ones. At the end of the half, there could have been a goaltend, and I think that's what you wanted them to review it. And they are, I think, supposed to under 2 minutes. But is there recourse for you? Is that what you're trying to get them to look at it?
Not in the half. My question was typically, and this is more last year than this year, just because our rules they're evolving. But last year, if it was close, they would call it because they could review goaltend calls. They couldn't review goaltend non-calls. And so I just asked them why they wouldn't call it, and they said because they weren't sure. And then obviously if they called it, then Ohio State would have had a chance to challenge it, but they'd already used a challenge. So it's just like everything else. It's a bang-bang play. It would have been nice to have that basket and a little more momentum going into halftime, but we had a great crew. It was a tough call, and once again, that's a millimeter play.
This is a tough one, but there's a theory that Big Ten hasn't won a national championship in 25 years because the Big Ten officiating, they call it one way during the Big Ten, it's physical. Then when you guys get to the tournament, it's totally different. Is there anything, you've been here a year and a half, would you think that
No,
understand where that's coming from?
I heard that as well when I was away because I was in SEC, I was in Conference USA, I was in the American, I was in all these other leagues, and I heard that as well. So I was curious to really I guess, analyze or examine why and see if I could come up with my own theory. And I don't think so. I watched the Big East, and it feels like the Big East and SEC and these high-level games with the strength and force and athleticism that the guys, each team has, it's tough. So, no, I think the Big Ten looks a lot like the Big East, and obviously UConn's done pretty well in the tournament the last few years. So Florida did well in the SEC. So when I watch an SEC game and a Big Ten game, from an officiating standpoint, they look very, very similar. And we even have blended crews. We have guys that work primarily with the Big Ten, but maybe do Big 12 games as well, SEC games and things like that. So, when I was in the Pac 10 years ago, and I was followed that conference because I enjoyed it, but it was different. It was that league was officiated much differently than these back east and the Midwest, and now I think the SEC's even gravitated more towards the way our games are officiated because you almost have to because the guys are that big and that strong, and so no, I don't think that's the reason the Big Ten hasn't won a national championship.
It feels like the last month or so, Roddy Gale's maybe at least offensively been slumping a bit. Is he doing the things that you still like on defense, where you feel fine about just his overall production on the court? And then when Namari's playing well and Trey's playing well, how do you see the minutes getting allocated moving forward?
I think we're going to need everyone on our roster that's in our rotation to play. And once again, we could sit up here and result every single game. Namari Burnett, if he misses shots, do we just not play him anymore if he has another 2-game cold streak? No, we trust the work he puts in. We're trying to generate this shot. I thought Roddy was an inch on 3 different finishes from having a really good line. He's connecting. He's trying to win. Our team plays well typically when he's on the court. So what does our rotation look like going forward? If guys play really well, they're going to probably play 25 or 26. If they're having just an okay game and someone else is playing well, they'll probably play 14 or 15. So I would say it'll look very similar to that, the same with the rest of our 8 or 9 rotation guys.
And how nice is that? Because maybe last year he was a really integral part of what this team was doing, just using Roddy as an example, because he was on both teams. Whereas now, if he has a couple games that maybe aren't up to his standard, you almost don't notice in the grand scheme of the way this team, winning.
We notice if he's playing poorly, if he's not hustling, if he's not guarding, if he's not defending, if he's not connect. I think in the last couple weeks, even though his stat line hasn't looked like it did in Vegas and whatnot, he's taken on more of a connecting role, and so is Will Cheddar. And when you look at our team, I feel like there's a much better rhythm to the game on offense. And if he's not out there, does it look like that? I don't know. But when he is, it does. So, once again, guys aren't going to play well every game, and that's a beautiful thing about having as many guys as we have. There's going to be nights when a dime misses free throws. There's going to be nights when LJ doesn't have his best stuff. I thought LJ was awesome yesterday, and I don't think he's been awesome the last couple games, and I think he's going to be going forward. So we're putting the guys out there we think gives us the best chance of winning that night, and trusting all of them because they've earned that trust over time.
You talked last week about feeling like you had the dogs to win the Big Ten this year. Are there, aside from that, lessons that you learned from last February's push that didn't work out that you're applying this year?
Not necessarily. Nothing that we didn't know. But this year our staff's they've worked together for a year. We have some foundational pieces in our locker room that could share our culture when we're not around. They're with the guys 8 hours a day, and we're with them 1 or 2 or 3, whatever. So no, those are the biggest things. We knew Big Ten season last year because we did our homework before we took the job. But sometimes you have to feel it. But we knew we weren't going to have practice time. That if we didn't have everything in, and we didn't have a base package in for every situation, it's going to be too late. Because today we're not going to be able to practice much. We're going to be able to clean up a few things and prepare for Northwestern. And then what can we really do practice-wise tomorrow, the day before the game, and traveling? So, we learned what we needed to, what type of roster we needed to have to compete with the best in the Big Ten.
Yesterday, toward the end of the game, did Cadeau have any tightness, or did he tweak something toward the end? Or
He said there were a couple guys. One of them said they stubbed their foot. One of them slightly tweaked their ankle. Nothing. That's what after the game I just asked him and one of the other guys, is it day to day? You'll be fine tomorrow. And they just shook their head, yeah, like nothing. So
thank you.
It's that time of season.
You talked about yesterday in your postgame about guys not leaving their feet and making sure that they were shooting over you, and that seemed to be an issue maybe a few weeks ago. Is that something you work on? Is that something you talk about in film? How do you address that?
Yes, and yes,
Okay.
all of it. It's an emphasis, and when you chase 2 rabbits, you catch none. So it's each scouting report that the assistants do an unbelievable job of. This is what's the most important thing, and we're gonna get this corrected. And if we don't, then we're thinking of different ways to teach it and corrected and whatnot. But we have an intentional group too, and I know for a fact that our players trust the staff and that they're getting the right information. And when they're receiving it, then they're going to apply it because they know it's going to help. So that's credit to the staff. They're going through 5 to 10 games on an opponent, and they're figuring out what are our weaknesses and deficiencies, what are their strengths, do they mirror each other, and what do we need to do to fix the ones that maybe are our weaknesses and they are their strengths, and that's where the game planning comes into play.
Did you hear the "Let's Go Blue" chants at the end of the game?
Absolutely.
That's like the 3rd or 4th time on the road now. It'll probably be the same in Chicago. Does that kind of speak to the brand and how your fans travel? And
100%. And we're very grateful for those fans, and we feel the energy. But it also I think they're showing gratitude towards our players, because if we weren't performing the way we are, our guys weren't playing the way they are, then we wouldn't have near as many fans. So it's a two-way street, and so I'm grateful for our squad and our fans. But yeah, the brand of Michigan is second to none. I didn't know it until I lived in Ypsilanti 20 years ago, and once I moved here, then I realized the power and the brand and the prestige of being affiliated with the University of Michigan.
Dusty, you said a few times now you want your team peaking toward the end of the year. Where is your team at right now in that regard, and what is that going to look like when this team peaks in your mind?
We're moving in that direction, and health is a big part of it. But we feel like we're playing good ball, and there was a time a few weeks ago, I don't know if it was complacency, if it was that time of year. Our season's 6 months long, and we followed certain teams in NBA and certain teams in college that we're learning from, and the Thunder went through it recently, and I think they're as disciplined and connected as any organization in the NBA that I watch, and they went through it, and injuries, matchups, there's so many variables in our game, but we like the way we're playing now. We like our energy. We love our approach. And most importantly, I said it yesterday in the locker room, that our guys look like they're having fun playing ball. In February, that's not always the case. It's probably the toughest part of our jobs when you're not having the type of year that we're having, and we're playing where every game has championship ramifications.
Ken Palm this year started evaluating feet from basket on 2-point shots. And that's not something I've seen. Michigan ranks very highly on this, on maybe first on offense and very high on defense also. And I've never seen a coach speak to that. I don't know if you find it meaningful. It's something you've looked at in the past, if it's something you can coach to, or if it's just one of those random stats that, from your point of view, that's sitting out there.
In our opinion, it's definitely not random. And I think when you look at our staff's been together for the most part. Our evolution as a staff, our first year or two, that's a beautiful thing about going to a program that has no expectations and no pressure, that you can just kind of figure out what you're going to be. And I think probably for the last 5, 6, 7 years that those numbers have been very consistent. We've tried to generate assisted baskets, and we've tried to take away assisted baskets. And so that usually means shots off the dribble in a certain area of the court, and we felt like that fit our personnel as well. And with our big guys and then our guards, with that, there's the responsibility of getting into the ball, of fighting like crazy over or under ball screens. And so yeah, that's all just vernacular. That whatever feet from the basket, we're trying to give up a certain profile of shot, and that's part of that formula.
Kind of lumping a group of guys together, but how would you evaluate Will, Trey, and LJ in the way they've played recently, especially considering that their minutes kind of fluctuate a little bit depending on the game?
Well, that's our entire roster. Their minutes fluctuate, so that can't be an excuse for this group, and that's part of like the give and take of being in position that we're in. Rarely do you have just a set group that they're playing for a championship and they don't really have to share much and whatever. But I couldn't be happier with those three guys. I think they're all finding their place in this group and how to function the best, and they're all giving a lot, because those three players should hear their names called in the starting lineup if that's what's important to you. They deserve that, but you know what? We have a lot of guys that deserve that, and I have coaches on my staff that deserve to be head coaches, and they're not. I mean, it doesn't. You don't always get what you deserve right when you deserve it. But yes, those three guys are playing good ball, and they're. If you take any of them away, this whole equation looks different.
Dusty, I mean, winning on the road is hard in the Big Ten. You guys are 6-0. You guys haven't lost on the road yet this season. I guess, what is it about this team that makes you guys so good on the road?
We have really good players that compete at a high level. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, we obviously our size, strength, athleticism is crucial, but we have guys that are experienced too. I don't think they're taking this for granted. I think sometimes, once again, you get into these long seasons, you just kind of get into the just going, and there's not much purpose, and with our guys, it just seems like they're continuing to improve. They're enjoying it together, and so I think that's the biggest thing. But most importantly is our talent level. We have really good players, and we have a lot of them.
We know like defense travels. Do you feel like there's things that you can always count on for this team to provide, no matter where you guys are playing at?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, we've been really consistent on that side of the ball. And then yesterday, I thought our hand activity, I thought our personal accountability to guard our guy, to guard our yard was as good as it's been against a team that really can punish you in that area. And then the rebounding piece, that's probably been the biggest jump for us is how well we rebounded the ball. I mean, Yaxel had 14 rebounds yesterday. He had 6 offensive and a couple games ago and 6 offensive. Those are extra possessions. We chart offensive rebounds as defensive stops. So every time you get an offensive rebound, you've given yourself another possession where you don't have to run back down the court and stop the other team from scoring. And so those are important for so many reasons. But to give ourselves that many extra possessions is, if we can continue to do that, we're going to be a tough out because Adai's finding his groove in the post. We haven't been very effective this year against post fires, and now we almost hope to get a post double. We haven't been near as, like, going into the season, I thought, okay, we're going to be able to throw that thing into post, invite double teams, and pick it apart. Our off-ball movement and cutting hasn't been as good as we needed it to be a majority of the year. But lately, that's been really, really effective for us. And so we still think that there's, each game has a life of its own, and there's going to be nights when we have to throw it into the post, and we got to play through that because everything else is being taken away. And that doesn't mean one-on-one in the post, but I thought Adai got back to playing with more aggression out of the post yesterday. We went inside early against Michigan State. He had a couple plays. He scored, and then a couple more where he's trying to draw fouls instead of get the basket. And if you get the foul, great. If not, great. But he's improving down low as well, and then Merez continues to add to his game. And so we just got to continue to have flexibility, variability, and be able to win in different ways.
Kind of a dumb question. Why do you think that the non-goaltend is not a reviewable call, and should it be?
You know how I am. Like, whatever the rules are, like.
But doesn't it seem like common sense?
I like the FIBA goaltend. So I think if you're playing the FIBA goaltend, then that one becomes easier to officiate. But I don't care. Like, once again, whatever the rules are, I 1-year contracts, 4-year contracts, 2-year contracts, whatever. Like, we're gonna figure out the best thing that fits us and adapt to that and try to win as much as we can and have a blast doing it.
What do you do in your downtime? When there's a Big Ten basketball game on when you're at home, are you watching it?
Last night. We got home relatively late, and the Super Bowl was already in full effect, and my wife and I turned on the Super Bowl, and I popped on Northwestern in Iowa. That's our Super Bowl, our next game, Northwestern, and stopped to listen to the halftime show, and then after that's, I think I may have watched 2 snaps other than that, and tried to watch tonight. I know the Kansas-Arizona game is one that intrigues me. I love those. I think those 2 coaches are 2 of the best in our game. Especially Coach Self, the way he's evolved over the years, and Tommy Lloyd is, wow, I mean, incredible what he's been able to do in that situation. So that's what I'll do tonight. Other than that, it's going to be our guys, our staff, and there's not much in an off season. I'll try to have some fun while we're fundraising and seeing donors and doing what we have to do recruiting wise. Other than that, that's the best part of this job is I actually enjoy almost all of it. So you don't really feel like you're working. You do get tired because it's arduous, but I never really feel like I'm working. I think I've made that pretty clear over the years that this isn't work. Thanks, guys.